You're listening to Combat Radio with Ethan Dettenmeyer, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Well, that is definitely the case today in your work. I mean, you're known for the Pulitzer Prize-like contribution as Iron Balls McGinty and the Jerk.
Yes,
right?
yeah. Iron Balls fears not the great robot.
But I think you're bombarded with you're attached to a lot of iconic projects. Jaws, I think, is the one people identify you with.
Yeah, I would say, and if I was a Jeopardy category, they would say hits that begin with a J. Is Jaws and the Jerk, which is two very different genres.
Actually, the Jerk was just on American Movie Classics. Was Steve Martin good to work with? Did he take it very seriously, or is he like Steve Martin-esque?
No, Steve is the most serious off-screen comic you'll ever meet. I mean, he was famous for being both withdrawn and reserved, and not a quipster. He's not on when he's off. And I've known him. We were writers on the old Smothers.
He's trying to walk left and right simultaneously.
Yeah.
My kid has tried to imitate that scene. She'll be holding on to a post and be like dragging her. It's hilarious. And I'm like, if Steve Martin knew that there's kids who,
Well, he's a brilliant physical comic. If you've ever seen him, juggle and play banjo and do magic tricks in addition to just spewing some of the funniest words out there, great deal of comedic talent.
Yeah, I would say so. As well as yourself, though. I mean, you're known. Aren't you really known as a guy who, at least inside the industry, bring in if you need some comedic elements? I mean, isn't that how Jaws came about?
Yeah, I was hired originally to do a 1-week dialogue polish to make some, add some jokes, work with the crowds, in improvisation, improv with the crowds a little bit to get it realistic. And one thing led to another, and it turned out to be a page 1 rewrite while the film was shooting, which is not a way to make a movie,
right?
But that's how we did it. We were writing 3-4 days ahead of the schedule.
What are your contributions that audience members might say, well, that is definitely Carl's work?
Well, I mean, we're going to need a bigger boat, which I always thought was ad-libbed by Roy Scheider. And then I remember talking to Roy, and he said, no, you wrote that. And I said, oh, okay. Because under the circumstances, there's no existing script for Jaws,
right?
Because it was this ever-changing document that was eventually, published as a script, and there's copies floating around. The collectors have various drafts.
Yeah, please. Did you write the speech, Robert Shaw's speech?
There's another writer out there who claims that. I'm here to tell you, John Milius did not write.
He didn't?
No. Fuck no.
You can say what you mean. You don't have to dress it up here.
I feel strongly about that. I did a long end note on that. What happened was an uncredited writer named Howard Sackler, who did the intermediate draft between the Peter Benchley's, the novelist's first draft, which was a novelist's first draft, and then Howard Sackler was a professional screenwriter. He wrote Great Lady Down. He was a Navy guy. And he found the Indianapolis incident. He was the one who knew about it and introduced it into the script. Then, and it was a long, long speech in Howard Sackler's draft. And we all knew that it would be a big moment in the film. It was very important. In our outline for the script, we always characterized it as just before the battle mother. And it's one of those scenes that's in every war movie in the foxholes the night before they go over the top. There's a momentary lull before this last violent action. And we knew it was going to be a very difficult speech, and Sean knew it was going to be a very difficult speech. And Stephen was reaching out to everybody, John Milius, Paul Schrader, Bob Zemeckis, and Bob Gale, everybody he ever worked with. He said, what do you think about this speech? You have a suggestion. So the suggestions were pouring in.
Right.
And eventually Robert Shaw collated all this material. He just took it as an actor. And Shaw was a hell of a writer himself. He wrote The Man in the Glass Booth. He wrote plays and novels.
Yeah.
He was way more than an actor. And he essentially put together the speech that you see on the screen. And he read it to us one night, a few days before we were shooting it. He said, "What do you think? I've had a go at that speech. What do you think of this?" And he read it in a darkened living room after dinner with a lot of effect. And Stephen said, "Great, we'll shoot that." And indeed, that's what they did shoot. So if anybody's responsible for that speech, it's Howard Sackler, Robert Shaw, and me, who also wrote, and and what I did write in its entirety is the whole scene on the boat, the scar comparing, the dialogue, the here's to your scar, here's to mine, here's Mary Ellen Moffat, broke my heart. I was.
Who is Mary Ellen Moffat, Carl? Do you want to get to the bottom of that?
We should have her on the show.